up one of the biggest questions I hear from buyers and renters in New York City. What is the actual difference between a condo and an apartment? I get this question all the time because when you're scrolling on listings on StreetEasy or Zillow, you'll see both terms used all the time, sometimes interchangeably, and that can be something that gets very confusing very quickly. So in today's video, I'm going to be breaking down exactly how they're different, how ownership works, what the financial and lifestyle trade-offs are, and which one might make more sense depending on your goal. Let's get started, and let's start off with some of the basics. What is an apartment? Okay, so in New York State, the word apartment is kind of a catch-all term. It just means a unit that's inside of a larger building, but the difference is going to come down to ownership. So if you're renting that apartment, you're dealing with a landlord or a management company, right? You don't own the unit. You're paying to live there month to month, or you're paying to live there on a lease. So if you own it though, that's when it becomes either a condo or a co-op, two totally different monsters. And we'll keep this one focused on the condos versus apartments, since co-ops deserve their own video and can be very complicated. So here's the key. Apartments are typically rentals, while condos are individually owned. So in a condo building, each unit has its own deed. You own your specific space outright like you would a house, but you share the common areas with everyone else in the building. So when you see apartment for rent, that's usually a rental building owned by one company or a landlord. And when you see condo for sale, that means someone owns that specific unit and is selling it to you directly. So now let's talk about money, because this is where the real difference is really gonna lie. So when you're renting an apartment, you're paying monthly rent, plus sometimes, you know, electricity, utilities, whatever, small building fees, etc. That's it. No property taxes. You're not paying a mortgage, and there's no equity involved. But when you buy a condo, you're taking on all the responsibilities of ownership. You're taking on a mortgage, property taxes, closing costs, and common charges. Which cover building maintenance, amenities, staffs, reserve, stuff like that. So here's a real world example. Let's say that you buy a 1-bedroom condo in Long Island City for like $800,000. Your monthly costs might look something like, your mortgage probably be around $4,000 depending on your down payment and your rate that you get. Your property taxes typically, $600 to $800 a month. Common charges, $500 to maybe $700. So you're in for maybe about $5,200, $5,500 a month all in typically, but you're building equity, meaning that your payments are going to be going towards something that you actually own. So now compare that to renting a similar apartment in the same area for say $4,500 a month. So you'll save up front, but none of that goes towards ownership or appreciation. So it comes down to your own goals. Short-term flexibility versus long-term investment. So let's talk flexibility, and this is where condos have the edge. When you own a condo, you generally have more control. You can live there, you can rent it out, or you can sell it down the road. Condos are especially popular with investors or buyers who want to keep their options open, because you can rent them out without the strict board approvals that co-ops typically require. So if you're someone who might move in a few years, but you still want to hold the property, a condo is going to be what gives you more of that freedom. Rental apartments, on the other hand, give you flexibility, but not financial freedom. So you can move when your lease ends, but you don't build ownership or gain or benefit at all from appreciation. So let's talk about lifestyle, because that's a big piece of it too. Condos and newer apartment buildings, they often feel very similar. You'll see gyms, you'll see doormen, you'll see lounges, rooftop decks, you'll see parking garages, but the big difference is going to be in how they're managed, and it's going to be in who actually pays for it. So In the rental buildings, the landlord or the management company is going to be handling most of the maintenance. If your sink leaks, you call super, no extra cost to you. They take care of it. In a condo, those costs are shared. So you pay your monthly common charges. And if the building needs a major repair, like a new elevator or a new roof, you might get hit with what's called an assessment fee to help cover it. And sometimes these can be killers. So ownership comes with perks and responsibility. You're in charge of your own unit and you share the rest with your neighbors, kind of like owning a small slice of the building. So now, one quick note for New York City buyers specifically, condo inventory is much more limited than co-ops. Okay, co-ops make up something like 25% of the city's housing market, which is why they're often more expensive per square foot on average. But they also tend to be newer, they tend to be a little bit more modern, and they're more flexible when it comes to financing and renting out later. So if you want something built in the last decade with those more updated nice finishes and amenities, you're probably looking at a condo. And if you're renting, you'll find more options, but again, you're trading ownership for that convenience. So at the end of the day, the bottom line is going to be that condos and apartments, they can look very similar on the outside, but under the hood, they're completely different experiences. They're completely different monsters. And if you're all about flexibility, you want that low commitment and you want that minimal maintenance, then renting an apartment may make the most sense for you for now. But if you're someone who's thinking more long-term, you're thinking about building wealth, having control over your space, or eventually renting it out for that rental income, a condo is going to give you that ownership advantage. It's not about which one's better. It's going to be about which one fits your goals and which one fits your goals right now. And so that's something very, very, very important to understand. If this video helped you to understand the difference between condos and apartments, don't stop here. I'm going to encourage you to click the video right here on your screen. Watch my free webinar right now, which is called How to Go from Hesitant to Homeowner, How Smart Buyers Win in Any Market. Click that video right here, right now, and I look forward to seeing you inside of the webinar.